This is the Anna Gale Lines podcast, where we equip you with the tools and insights to take charge of your life and thrive. And here is your host, life coach and author, Anna Gale Lines.
Welcome to the Anna Gale Lines podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gale Lines, and today we are going to be talking about something that happens to all of us. It's being self-critical. Too many times we are inclined to find fault with ourselves. Our inner critic will tell us that we can't do something, that we shouldn't do something, that we're not good enough, that we're not pretty enough, that we're not talented enough. But that self-criticism, that inner critic, is trying to get you to reach your full potential, but it overemphasizes the negatives to the point where we will be self-critical. We will put ourselves down and we will think that we can't do anything right, and we won't venture out of our comfort zone. What are some signs that you are being too self-critical? One, you blame yourself for every negative situation. You find a way to blame yourself. So if a customer calls on the phone and their complaint has nothing to do with you, you will turn it around so that you're at fault. You have a fight with your spouse, and your spouse is actually, being critical and gaslighting and manipulative, and you will somehow turn it around that you deserve that. Another thing is that we're down on ourselves as a whole person as opposed to our specific mistakes. So let's say that you got a rejection on your novel from a publishing company. And instead of saying, oh, let me see what I can do to fix this, or maybe this is not the right publishing house for this manuscript, you instead say that you are a bad person, that you can never do anything right, that you're not talented enough, that you're not gifted enough, that you're not pretty enough, and you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You decide that you are a bad person just because one publishing house rejected you. And we often avoid taking risks. We avoid getting out of our comfort zone because we believe that we're going to be embarrassed, we're going to fail, we're going to, do something that is going to be detrimental to our lives, which is not often the case. We often avoid expressing our own opinions because we fear that other people will reject us. We often compare ourselves to someone else and come up short. That especially happens in this day and age because we've got the pictures on Instagram and Facebook and what's happening on TikTok, and we see people's lives and we see the highlights of their lives, but we don't see the day-to-day routine of their lives. We have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. So we compare their highlight reels to our everyday life. And then we often are never satisfied with our achievements. So we could write a best-selling book. We could have books that we've published on Amazon that people actually read. We can have run a marathon or got that C-suite promotion, but we don't see ourselves as having achieved anything because we're not president of the United States. We're not, building our own business. We're not a well-known author. And we also have impossibly high standards. We believe we've got to get to a certain level in order to be successful. We worry about what if scenarios. So what if we fall off the stage if we're speaking in public? What if we forget our lines in the play? What if nobody reads our book? What if we get negative criticism? What if you do? If you fall off the stage, then you get back up. If you forget your lines, that's just a moment in time. Ab lib. Nobody reads your writing. That might not be because it's a bad book, but because it hasn't been marketed enough for people to actually know it exists. And if you get negative criticism, there are always going to be haters out there. And haters means that you're actually venturing out and doing something. You wouldn't get haters if you weren't doing something, if you weren't venturing out of your comfort zone. And then we have body image issues. We either feel like we're too skinny, or we're too fat, or we're too old, or we're too young, and we got too many wrinkles. And, we got this wrong with us and that wrong with us. We got a big nose, and we don't like our eyes, and we don't like our arms, and we don't like our legs. But we are who we are, and we need to accept us the way we are. And we never ask for help. Because in the past, when we've asked for help, people have got upset with us. So we no longer ask for help. We do not assert our own needs and desires. In fact, we go overboard to help everybody else. And we play chameleon. And we make them think that what they want and desire is what we want and desire. We have thoughts of self-harm. And we had chronically criticizing parents or caregivers. We persist in analyzing and overanalyzing our mistakes. We go to bed at night and we're thinking about what we did wrong, or what we could have said better, or what we could have done better. And we don't forgive easily. And more often than not, we don't forgive ourselves easily. We forgive others more readily than we forgive ourselves. We don't give ourselves compliments, and we can't accept compliments from other people. We wonder what their agenda is and what their motive is for giving us that compliment. And then we get defensive in the face of feedback. Even constructive criticism, we take it as an insult. We take it as they are saying that we are a bad person, or that what we wrote, or what we painted, or what we played on the guitar or the piano or whatever is bad, that we're not talented enough, we're not good enough, we're not enough. So our achievements in life have fallen below our capabilities. We're not living up to our full potential because we are focusing on the inner critic. We're focusing on criticizing ourselves. So how do we overcome criticism? One is by paying attention to your thoughts. So too many times we'll have 60,000 thoughts going through our head in a day, and we don't ever listen to those thoughts and find out what they're actually saying. Because what happens is we will allow those critical thoughts to go through our brain, and then they seep into our consciousness, they seep into our heart, and then we believe them. We take them as gold, as the truth. But the problem is that those critical thoughts are not necessarily the truth. So if you have a critical thought that you're never going to make it, you're never going to publish your book, nobody's ever going to read it, you're never going to be talented enough to make the bestsellers list, you're never going to be talented enough to gain a following, you're never going to be enough, and you allow those thoughts to go through your head enough, they're going to seep into your consciousness, they're going to seep into your heart, and you're going to believe them. And that is going to become your truth, your reality, that you aren't good enough, you aren't talented enough, you're not pretty enough, you don't have enough knowledge, and that you are just not enough. When that is not the truth. We are all here for a purpose. We all have our own gifts and talents and abilities, and we all have our place in this world. But too many times we are barking up the wrong tree. We haven't found our tribe. We haven't found our place in this world. And instead, we are allowing these negative thoughts to prevent us from going out of our comfort zone and trying anything new. And we need to change the channel. Instead of continuing to think that you're not good enough, you're not talented enough, change the channel to something more uplifting. So we need to focus on what we have accomplished that others haven't accomplished. Like, for instance, I will tell people that I've written 20 books, and they're surprised. Really, you have created 20 books? But to me, it's like, I created 20 books, whatever. I just wrote these novels. I just wrote books, I just did it to keep my sanity and my creativity going. But to other people, it's an accomplishment. The fact that I even do a podcast is, people see that as an accomplishment. But we have to change the channel. We have to change our thinking. We have to change it to something more uplifting. We have to focus on, what we can do. We have to continue doing our craft, whether or not your inner critic is telling you you can't do it. Keep practicing at your writing. Keep practicing at your music. Keep practicing at your painting, and you will get better. You will master it. And you're always going to be learning something. We always have a day one. We're never going to be good from the beginning. We're not going to be the best from the beginning. Even people who are naturally talented at something still have to work at it and learn what they're doing. So we need to change the channel. If that means getting a journal out and journaling all of your accomplishments, maybe 5 victories for that particular day, so that you could go over those victories and see that there are good things that you have done in your life, things you have accomplished. And then we need to examine the evidence. So, what is the evidence that you are not a good writer? What is the evidence that you are not a good musician? What is the evidence that you are not a good painter? What is the evidence that you are never going to get published? What is the evidence? See, the problem is that these are all what if scenarios. So what if you're not good at writing? Then you keep at it and you keep getting better and better and better, because talent is not the thing. It's grit. It's persistence. Because if we keep at it, we will get better and better. And then if we keep persevering, we will find somebody who wants to publish us, even if we got to self-publish. And then what if we don't get a following? Take marketing into your own hands instead of allowing it to be in the hands of the book publishers, because people want to see a face. They want to see you. They want to see your personality, your talents, your gifts. And maybe your story needs to be told in a different way. Maybe your story does not need to be in a novel. Maybe it needs to be in a web series. Maybe your story needs to be told as a movie or a television series. But maybe your story can be told in other ways. And what if you aren't good at painting or music or whatever? You keep at it. You keep practicing. You keep mastering your craft, because that is where the gold lies, in practice and perseverance. But your inner critic will love to tell you that you can't do anything. It's like it's like that critical parent who is always telling you what you can't do and never tells you what you can do. You can do anything you set your mind to if you dream it and you put the work in, you can achieve it. It may not be in the form in which you thought it was going to be, but you can achieve it in some way, shape, or form. And then we need to replace our negative thoughts with realistic statements. So your inner critic tells you you can't write. You're not talented enough. You're not good enough. You come back and say, I'm practicing my craft. No one is good at on day one. I am getting better every day at this. Every day I put practice into it. And somebody is going to want to read what I have written. I am going to get a following. You have to make sure in your mind that you understand that you can achieve your goals. And you need to counter your negative thoughts with positive ones, that you can do this. You will achieve what you set out to do. This is your dream and your goal, and you will achieve it. And considering how bad it would be if your thoughts were true, what if you weren't good at writing? What if you were the most terrible writer in the world? Okay, all that means is that you need to find what you are good at. That just means you're barking up the wrong tree. All that means is maybe, like I said before, your story is supposed to be told in a different form. Maybe you're supposed to be, a filmmaker. Maybe you're supposed to be something other than what you are doing right now. But maybe the story needs to be told in a different way. What if you weren't good at music? What if you're not talented at music? I've always been told I am technically good. You've got all the techniques down, but you don't have the feeling behind it. That doesn't stop me from playing. It doesn't stop me from playing piano. It doesn't stop me from wanting to learn the guitar. I know that just because I am not good at first does not mean that I won't be good eventually. But even if what your inner critic is saying is true, you don't have to listen. You can counter it, and you could become the person that you are supposed to be just by finding what it is that you are supposed to do. What advice would you give your friend if they were in this situation? Because most of the time we are kinder to our friends than we are to ourselves. So if Sally, your best friend, came to you and was telling you how she didn't think she could make it. She didn't think she could achieve her goals. She couldn't write that novel. She couldn't paint that painting. She couldn't go for that sweet C-suite job. She didn't feel like she was talented enough. She didn't have enough experience. What would you tell her? You would tell her to practice. You would tell her to get that experience. You would tell her to go after that dream. That she was good enough, that she was talented enough, that you believed in her. And we need to say the same things to ourselves. And we need to balance self-improvement with self-acceptance. So we need to focus on our strengths, but master our weaknesses. We need to focus on where we're strong, but we need to also look at improving our weaknesses. So can we do that by taking classes? Can we do that by hiring somebody who loves to do that? Can we do that by, delegating that to somebody else? Can we master our weaknesses by watching YouTube videos or taking classes or finding somebody who's done that to be your mentor? And we need to stop comparing ourselves to others because, like I said before, we only see the highlight reels on Instagram and Facebook of what these people's lives are like. We don't see the down moments. We don't see what they're thinking when they're going to bed at night. We don't know what's actually happening in their houses and in their jobs. We don't know. All we know is what we see on Instagram and Facebook. So we need to stop comparing ourselves and our everyday life and our talents and our gifts to everyone else. We are us, and we need to accept ourselves the way we are. work on our weaknesses, but cater to our strengths. And we need to stop being perfect or trying to be perfect, because we are never going to get anything done if we try to be perfect. If we try always to be perfect, and that the report has to be perfect, and the book has to be perfect, and the painting has to be perfect, and everything has to be perfect, we're never going to get anything done. Done is better than perfect. You can always go back and revise later. In fact, you can always have that as a rough draft and get other people's opinions and then change it. Bring people into the process, because once they're in the process, they have skin in the game, and they will help you out and make it a better product. And then we need to, like I said, keep a victory log. Every day, take time to do your 5 gratitudes. What are you grateful for today? And 5 things that you did well today, or things that you accomplished today. Not the things on your to-do list, but these are things like talking to a stranger, or, doing something that's out of your comfort zone, or writing on that book, putting work in on that dream. We need to practice self-compassion. We need to practice being kind to ourselves, because if we don't, we are always going to be stuck in our comfort zone. We're always going to be in the same spot, stuck. So what needs to happen is we need to talk well to ourselves. We need to say good things to ourselves. We need to stop those negative thoughts and beliefs. And we need to believe that we can achieve what we set out to do. We can practice that craft. We can master that craft. We can get published. We can write a best-selling song. We can do whatever we set our minds to. But we have to be nice to ourselves. We need to be kind and not critical, because when we're critical, we stop our creativity. We stop the new ideas. We stop anything from coming into our lives that is good. So we need to live a life of abundance by being kind to ourselves. So what areas of your life are you being self-critical in? What areas of your life do you need to improve in? And what scenarios do you have in your mind that could happen if you ventured out of your comfort zone? Write them down in your journal. Write them down and play the what if game. So what if that happens? So you write down the outcome. So what if that actually did happen? And write out what would actually happen. More times than not, you would not die. You would learn from your mistakes, and you would move on, and you would learn to improve. But too many times we take failure as the end all and be all of our lives, and it's not. It's just a stepping stone to success. You have to fail in order to succeed. Go after those dreams, and I believe in you. Until next time.
If you would like to learn more about Anna Gale or to purchase her fiction and nonfiction books, go to AnnaGaleLines.com. That is AnnaGaleLYNES.com. Right now, you can buy 3 ebooks and get the 4th one free. There you can sign up for the newsletter to keep up to date on what is happening in the world of the Anna Gale Lines podcast and her science fiction podcast, The Space-Tastic Mysteries, where you can hear installments of her novels. To follow her on social media, it is Anna Gale Lines on Twitter, Lady Anna Gale on TikTok, Anna Gale Lines Artist on Instagram, at the Anna Gale Lines Podcast on YouTube. You can join the Facebook page at Author Anna Gale. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being you.